Spotlight.
This is Akashvani. In the program Spotlight, now we bring you a discussion on key takeaways from Prime Minister's visit to South Africa and the G20 summit. The participants are Jitendra Kumar Tripathi, former ambassador, and Harsh Ranjan, anchor.
Welcome to Spotlight. Today we have with us Shri Jitendra Kumar Tripathi, distinguished former ambassador with deep experience in international relations and global economic forum. We are discussing the G20 summit in Johannesburg, South Africa, which concluded today. This was for the first time that G20 has met on African soil. This summit is particularly significant for India. Prime Minister Narendra Modi brought forward a vision rooted in Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, one earth, one family, one future, and launched several key global initiatives, from skill transfer in Africa to satellite data sharing, from disaster resilience to countering the drug terror Nexus. In our conversation today, we will explore what India gained from this summit, how it shaped India's global strategy, what bilateral ties were advanced, and why this matters for ordinary citizens of India. Ambassador Tripathi, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So let's begin. Why this G20 matters, especially since it's for the first time on African soil, and from an Indian perspective, what makes this summit different from previous ones?
The beginning, if you go through the text of leaders' declaration, one finds that there are many things which have been mentioned here which are related to development in Africa. And that was natural because, as you have rightly said, that this summit had taken place for the first time on African soil. So certainly development of Africa would have been core issue. Secondly, this summit shows abundantly that no country, howsoever powerful, can bully the world, because USA boycotted this summit because they were not happy about the climate change provisions mentioned here, because President Trump himself thinks that there is no threat to climate. So they boycotted, but nevertheless, breaking the tradition, not rule, breaking the tradition that the declarations are unanimously accepted. President of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, clearly told that this represents the majority's view. The view of majority of the world, not only the majority of G20, but majority of the world, that is Global South. And therefore, it has to be passed, which is President Trump. This is a bold attempt by South African president to show that no bullying will be tolerated. One. Now, as regards India's perspective, 9 points that were in Delhi Declaration in 2023 find mention here. Even our motto, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. In other words, it finds mention in para 2 of the declaration, which says that the African philosophy Ubuntu, often translated as I am because we are. That shows that cooperation is a must among the human beings, among the living organisms of the world, which includes climate. This is a sort of translation of our philosophy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The whole world is a family. Thirdly, this summit again unequivocally declared that terrorism in all forms is to be condemned. Fourthly, they said that the poor countries, LDCs, SIDS and other Global South countries will have to be treated separately by the World Bank, by the WTO, by the IMF and by other multilateral banking organizations, because the terms and conditions imposed by them are in favor of the wealthier nations. This thing, then critical minerals supply chain, which we have been advocating for, supply chain, continuance of supply chain, uninterrupted supply chain, this also finds mention here. Then what else is there? That energy, clean energy, resilience, then health, sustainability, sustainable development, which was a core issue in 2023 G20. It has been found in the agenda, in the motto, solidarity, equality and sustainability.
First, listen to what Secretary Economic Relations in the Ministry of Economic Affairs, Sudhakar Dalela, what he has underlined.
Elaborating India's approach to growth, development, and well-being for all, Prime Minister proposed a few actionable for the G20 to consider. These included, number one, creation of a G20 Global Traditional Knowledge Repository. This would harness collective wisdom of humanity for the benefit of future generations. Secondly, creation of a G20 Africa Skills Multiplier. This program would aim to create a pool of 1 million certified trainers for skilling the youth in Africa. The third, creation of a G20 Global Healthcare Response Team, which would comprise healthcare experts from each of the G20 members and could be deployed to deal with global health challenges in any part of the world. The fourth, establishing a G20 Open Satellite Data Partnership, a program of satellite data in which G20 space agencies would make information available to developing countries for agriculture, fisheries, disaster management, among other activities. Fifth, he also talked about creation of a G20 Critical Minerals Circularity Initiative, an initiative which would foster recycling, urban mining, second life battery projects, and innovation of various types, and help in strengthening supply chain security and develop cleaner pathways of development. And finally, Honorable Prime Minister mentioned about creation of a G20 initiative on countering the drug and terror nexus.
It was the same as he explained. Now please go ahead what you were explaining. But before that, can you just please explain G20 Africa Skills Multiplier Initiative that PM Modi has proposed?
Because you see, Africa has been very close to our heart, to heart of India and Indians. And we have centuries old relationship, 400, 500 years. And Mahatma Gandhi also had started his career from South Africa, I must say. South Africa being close to us and entire Africa as a developing continent with more than 1 billion population is like us. And we have to, whatever we have learned in our development journey, we want to share those things, those issues with our African friends, and we want to train them. So PM's call for skill empowerment or skill multiplier initiative is the same thing, that whatever spheres, whatever areas we are expert in, let us share the knowledge with our African friends, because together we arise. That is the philosophy India had. Still there are even today there are number of programs under Colombo Plan, under ICCR, in which Indian government offers scholarships for varying durations from 3 weeks to 3 years to basically the students or bureaucrats or technicians, technocrats, or even military officers, police officers, forensic science officers, agricultural scientists of developing nations, big part of which comes from Africa. India has also, under India-Africa Friendship Scheme, India has also provided e-governance, e-education and e-health to all the 52 countries of Africa, where our doctors, our educators, and they are in real time, they are connected with African counterparts. Correct. As well as all the heads of state of Africa, they have been connected by India through hotline.
If we look at India's core proposals and initiative, Prime Minister Modi has also proposed a G20 initiative on countering the drug terror nexus. Why is this a priority for India, and how does it resonate with other nations?
You see, India becomes a sort of transiting point for these drug nexus from Afghanistan, from Pakistan to Myanmar, or vice versa. Plus, you see, in our western province of Punjab or in our northeastern provinces, there are many cases where drugs have been confiscated, drugs have been found, people arrested. So these things, since India has suffered, India wants others not to suffer, and India wants to pinpoint that drug trafficking must be stopped. Especially, when it comes to USA. USA was sandwiched between Mexico and Canada. And from both sides, fentanyl used to be smuggled into USA. That posed a big problem for US youth. But it is not a question of only US. Here also all sort of drugs are smuggled into the country, and because they have adverse effect on our economy, on people's income, because a large part of income is spent in drugs instead of development opportunities.
What practical mechanism can the G20 use to disrupt such networks, and what challenges lie ahead?
I think G20 must establish some sort of group or some sort of platform where they can collaborate real time, they can share real time information with other countries. Like whenever they get any news or any indication that some drug is being exported to from one G20 country to another G20 country, this real time information sharing, the real time knowledge sharing on destruction of such drug, the real time program sharing on educating the youth and others against drug. These are the things on which G20 can collaborate together.
If we see India's core proposals, it also include, critical minerals and energy transition. Actually, India's critical minerals circulatory initiative aims to promote recycling and urban mining. Why is this important in the context of clean energy and global supply chains?
We basing on coal energy or basing on energy from waste. I mean, just burning the waste and not utilizing the energy at the same time producing carbon dioxide. So these things become important for India in so much so that India should try to have access to clean energy technologies, which has been so far a monopoly of Western world. So access to clean energy technology, carbon footprint reduction, then carbon credits. These things become very important, unavoidable for India. Like you see here in India, there are big mountains of garbage causing health hazard to people, causing climate problems. They should be made to produce clean energy. That is one thing. The second thing is, India, as you said, the critical minerals. Critical minerals are now much more important than any other thing in manufacturing. With advance of technology, critical minerals become unavoidable for production of motor cars, computers, satellites, mobile phones, and we have very rightly pointed out to monopoly of supply of these critical minerals, which should be abolished, which should be done away with. And I'll just give you one example of critical minerals importance. Rare earth magnets are used in motor car industry. China is big supplier, almost enjoys monopoly. And when President Trump threatened China with 150% of tariff, China retaliated with stopping export of rare earth magnets to US, which
Correct.
made President Trump climb down from his threat.
Ambassador Tripathi, on the sidelines of the summit, PM Modi met several leaders, including from Malaysia and IBSA partners. What were the key bilateral takeaways from India's summit diplomacy? In very brief, because we are running short of time.
See, one is he met with Australian and Canadian Prime Minister, and trilateral initiative partnership was announced, under which supply chain, clean energy, artificial intelligence, and critical minerals and energy technology were discussed. And they agreed that they will cooperate further. Besides, he met presidents of South Korea, Vietnam, UK, Italy, France, Brazil, Singapore, and he met Malaysian Prime Minister because he could not attend the Kuala Lumpur summit, ASEAN summit. So he just personally made it a point to personally meet him briefly and convey his best wishes.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Tripathi, for coming to the studios of Akashvani. Thank you.
Thank you.
You were listening to a discussion on key takeaways from Prime Minister's visit to South Africa and the G20 summit. The participants were Jitendra Kumar Tripathi, former ambassador, and Harsh Ranjan, anchor. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of Akashvani. You can listen to it on our mobile app, News on AIR. This program is also available on our YouTube channel, News on AIR Official. You may share your feedback about this program through email at airnsttalks@gmail.com or WhatsApp on 9289094044.
Spotlight.